to the point where my grandfather asked me, like, what did you do? You must have done something wrong. I said, no, Grandpa, this was the agreement we had with the coach. He passed away the following year. And I wore that on myself, that he came to every game. He never came to any of my games before. And so I kind of wore that on myself, that he came to all my games and never got to see me play. And so I made a commitment to myself that would never happen again.
Welcome to Apostolicam Actuositatem, an interview series on effective apostolic activity for the 21st century. My name is Christopher Pereira. I'm the CEO of Tepeyac Leadership.
I'm Andreas Widmer, Director of the Sioka Center for Principled Entrepreneurship at the Catholic University of America.
Thank you so much for watching. Today we interview Jean-Paul Afif. He is a good friend and a faithful Catholic in the field of finance. And we welcome you, Jean-Paul. And I think I'm going to call you, if you allow me, JP. Thank you for being with us and for joining Apostolicam Actuositatem.
Thank you for having me, Christopher.
Very broadly, what we're doing is to say that Vatican II has called for our involvement in civil affairs, with us being at 11, I want to say, in civil society. And we're inviting people like you and like ourselves to say, how do you do this? You know, how are you the leaven in the regular day-to-day work and life that we do as lay people, right? And that's what we'd like to explore in how to be a Catholic in a secular society, if you wish.
Yeah. So in a past life, actually 20 years ago right now, I played in the NBA for a short stint with the Sacramento Kings. And I was also an NBA Development League draft pick in the NBA's G League. And then I played professionally overseas in Lebanon, Turkey, and Italy, and all over the U.S. minor league, Buffalo, New York, Dallas, Texas. And then I got into coaching. And I became a head coach very, very quickly at age 27. I was a head coach in the ABA, the American Basketball Association, the red, white, and blue basketballs for 2 years. And went to a championship and was an all-star head coach, and thought that was where God was calling me to go. And then in 2008, when the Great Recession took place and the economy crashed, minor league basketball that ceased to exist more or less across the country. So from 2008 to 2010, there were about 70 some odd minor league teams that literally not one team folded, but the entire leagues folded. There was no league to even play in, forget a team to coach on. So I was kind of out of a job and out of an industry overnight, and just got married and was very prayerful about where God was leading me. And I ended up kind of in a have-to situation where I took a job with Citibank in 2008, 9, right in there. And it was with Citibank in Santa Monica.
It's interesting. We have that in common. I mean, not at the level that you did, but I play basketball. I'm 6'9". You probably are taller than I am.
Same height. I'm 6'8" actually. So I don't claim 6'9" anymore. That's what they wrote on the NBA stuff, but I don't know if I ever got there.
You know, and I'm even older than you are. So my 6'9" was my military size. You know, so when I was drafted,
wow. Then you're legit.
I was 6'9". Well, in Europe, and I actually started to play basketball as well. And I have a strong weakness for the sport, which is basketball in Switzerland was not very popular when I grew up, because, you know, soccer, it's like everybody plays
sure.
soccer. But with my size and everything, I never amounted to anything. And somebody recruited me into a basketball team in the city. And they wanted to sort of rise and say, well, out of all the things you can make your mark in basketball, at least you have a chance to get into the league. And so I started playing basketball only at about 15 years old, but our team made it into the National A League in Switzerland while I was there, even though I was not a star player or anything even close to that. But it was a huge experience, and it's one of my favorite memories of my teenagehood. So
yeah, it really, I think, helped me to learn in life how to be a good teammate, a good friend. A lot of character building. But to your same point, I was never a star player, just to be clear. I was always a sixth man off the bench kind of guy, would come in and give, 10, 12 rebounds and, 12 or 14 points. I was that kind of player. But was lucky and blessed to be able to make it to the highest levels. And that similar to you, I didn't start playing basketball until I was 13 years old. So I couldn't, and that's a whole story I can go off on a tangent on, but I wanted to play on the team, not because I liked basketball, because all my friends were on the team at 13. And in Temecula, being such a small rural area, there was literally one team. So I went out for the team. I couldn't make a layup, and I was cut from the team. And my mom was literally crying to the coach. She thought it was kind of like recreational. Like, how do you cut a 13-year-old? He wants to play with his friends, let him on the team. And the coach basically said no. And although I was a foot taller than everybody, so he said something, why doesn't he go try out for the 8th grade team? And my mom said, if he doesn't make the 7th grade team, why is he going to make the 8th grade? And he said, well, they only had 13 guys come out. I had 18 guys come out. Maybe your son's better, law of averages. So I went and tried out with the 8th grade team, which I didn't even want to do. I didn't want to play basketball or play with the 8th graders. I wanted to play with my friends. That was my only goal in the whole thing. So he had me try out with the 8th grade team. The guy said, no, he can't play on our team either. My mom said, he's tall. Can you develop him? Maybe he'll be an extra 5 fouls. She wouldn't stop begging. Long story short, he said, okay, I'll take him, but he'll never play. He'll never play. And I don't care. And I think the coach was expecting us just to walk away. And he said, I don't care if we're up 40, we're down 40, he's not going to play. My mom said, great, take him, but please develop him on the team. So here I am playing a sport that at the first I didn't really like. And at second, not with my friends, on a team I didn't want to be on, that with a coach that didn't want me. But I literally spent every practice, not on the court with him, but on a separate court, just by myself, doing one-on-one drills that he'd tell me to do. Go make 100 layups, right hand. Go make 100 layups, left hand. Don't come back and see me until you finish making this many. Yeah, so first and foremost was hard work pays off. If you want anything, you've got to earn it. And I've got to close I know it's a story, but I got to close the loop on that story. My grandfather came to every game that year, and we were up by 40. I never played 1 second. We were down by 40. I never played 1 second. And to the point where my grandfather asked me, like, what did you do? You must have done something wrong. I said, no, Grandpa. This was the agreement we had with the coach. He passed away the following year. And I wore that on myself, that he came to every game. He never came to any of my games before. And so I kind of wore that on myself, that he came to all my games and never got to see me play. And so I made a commitment to myself that would never happen again. And that's where I literally kind of almost turned into a machine. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours outside preparing myself to be the best that I could be, to make sure that I would never be in a situation where I was, on the bench or not playing again or something of that nature. And that was literally the catalyst for my basketball career. I kind of started coming into my own by age 14 or 15. My mom thought I was nuts. She would see a pair of shoes show up at our house, and to put it in perspective, we'd spend, I'm not exaggerating, $1.99 on my shoes. We went to the Nike outlet, and she got me some yellow shoes that nobody wanted to buy for $1.99. And I'm buying $150 strength shoes to build up my jumping ability with my piggy bank. And she said, where did these come from? And I'm outside jump roping with them and doing sprints with them and trying to make sure I can make it. But in the end, what caused me to make it to the highest level in basketball was a lot of prayer. So I was very prayerful about it also, but a lot of hard work and offering it up. And I don't think I realized what offering it up was back then, but knowing I was doing it for a greater purpose than myself. I never was a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, no knock on any of those players, but I was never a very individualistic player. My favorite basketball was playing actually in Italy because it was all about the team. And I grew up playing all about the team. I would die to myself on the court to get somebody else open for a score, whether that was setting a screen, whether that was, diving on the floor head first for a rebound or a ball. It was all about my teammates. And so to transfer that, all about the colleagues I work with, all about my clients, all about my family, all about everybody else. And that there's nothing more specific than or Christ-like than to die to oneself, to be other-centered, right? If you're other-centered in everything you do, and you be Christ to others in everything you do, it is the most selfless act that you can have. And there's a way to acquire that virtue through sports and through basketball, and obviously through work and professional life as well. So. Sorry, I had to close the
I'm so glad you finished the story. Yeah, you answered my question as well, because it's very clear how this transfers to leadership in the business world. But what we're trying to do here is show lay Catholic professionals who might not have made that connection and seen how their role in professional life, in their career, can be and should be their means to sanctification and their way to sanctify the world for Christ. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means in your life?
Yeah, so for myself, being a natural competitor, there's a part of me that always wants to be the best, okay, right? Do the best I can. I've always learned through sports to strive for perfection, basically in everything and in all the minor details. And so the transfer of that into my personal life is that right now, having the realization and the formation that I can offer up my work, offer it up to the Lord, that my desk is my altar, and that the work that I do is an offering to Him. When you are working in that sort of capacity and that sort of formation and that sort of understanding, nothing less than perfect will do. And because again, it's you may not, you might be okay making a simple cheese sandwich for yourself, right? But if you have guests coming over, you're going to cook the best steak, you're going to put out the best salad, you're going to put out your best, you're going to host them. And in similar way, you may in your work not mind, not my personality, but somebody might not mind doing C+ work or C level work because, hey, who cares? It's just an email, it's just a this or that. It's only for me. But when you realize you're doing it for others, for your colleagues, for your firm, for your clients, for your work, and ultimately offering up for Christ, nothing less than perfection will do. We're not perfect people, but as close to perfection as we can get. So I think that attention to detail and that level of, and being prayerful, right? So for myself, I try to wake up and do a morning offering every day. I try to take work times for breaks throughout my workday to do some spiritual reading, to do some morning prayers, to say the Angelus at noon, to say the 3 o'clock St. Faustina prayer, and just take pivotal moments in the day to recognize where I am in the universe relative to my Lord and Savior and make that connection at that moment. So 3 o'clock for me is a very special hour. Obviously, Christ died on the cross. My mother is a big Divine Mercy advocate. So for me, that's had a special place for me, that if I'm driving on a freeway, if I'm going to a client, if I'm sipping a cup of coffee, when my clock strikes 3, I don't have an alarm that goes off, but I almost, when you have an alarm go off the same time every day, it becomes a sixth sense in your mind. It's like your body wakes up naturally, or you kind of know, hey, an hour's passed. You have that internal clock. I find myself checking the clock right at 2:59, right at 3 o'clock every day. And I just pause for a minute and I say the St. Faustina 3 o'clock prayer. Sometimes I say the whole chaplet if I have time. That's ideal. But if I don't, I just say the You Expired Jesus prayer, and recognize for that minute and moment internally that this was the moment in time that Christ died on the cross. And for me, that's boom, such a significance in my day, and kind of recenters me. Same with the Angelus, when the Blessed Mother said yes. So being able to say the Angelus at noon, incorporating those things throughout the day, at least also make you not, when you're striving for perfection, you can get consumed in your work, right? So at the same time too, it gives you a balance of not being consumed in your work, but balancing prayer, work, and life altogether.
Now, you advise a lot of people in your business, right? You help people invest their funds and find,
correct,
help them save and all that. I noticed that you practice values-based investing, right?
Yes.
How do you show me a little bit, and maybe to give some ideas for the people watching, is how does your faith? Let's say somebody is Catholic and they want to practice this values-based investing. When I first started to do this, I honestly tell you, I didn't know what my values are and how they relate to money. I mean, guide us in this, because that's also an aspect of bringing lay leadership into the world, right? Of making our money do God's work in a sense.
Yeah, so I would relate it also to, for example, to your point, we have to help our clients go through the realization, first of all, of to your point, is what are their values? Most clients sometimes separate that internally, where it's like church is over here and my money's over here, or church is over here and work is over there, and rather realizing that it all transcends one another. So the first thing that we have to do is begin to draw out of them, because we can't impose our values upon them, right? We can drip on them by being Christ to them And so they see our values, they see our virtues through how we interact with them, the respect, level of dignity we treat them with. But one of my biggest jobs, I almost feel like I'm a psychologist, is just drawing out of my clients what their values are and getting them to realize those values, and then showing them ways that they can invest along those value lines. And actually, before even going to investing, I'll take a step further back, at least very humbly said, with the level of wealth I work with for most of my clients, when you start talking about values-based investing, aside from identifying their values, we really focus on their estate plan and their philanthropic goals personally before we even get to the second layer, which is how are we investing the money along with your values. So if a lot of people have dreams and or values that are kind of sitting in the back of the head, and number one, we try to help them discover them. Number two, we try to put them into action. So if that's a estate plan or starting a private foundation or a personal foundation that is meaningful to them, we want to help not steer them, but guide them in that direction to see different ways that they can personally administer and live out their values through their finances and through their money. And then the third layer of that is then getting into the values-based investing, which is a number of filters that we run above and beyond, for example, the typical, no alcohol, no tobacco, no firearms type filters. Those are very secular filters that are put on in society that some people want to invest and makes them feel good. But rather, we'll turn around and take a step further and put filters on the managers and money managers and stocks that we are picking or suggesting or advising to our clients based off of that company's underlying values. So if there's a company that is matching, let's say, or not, donating to Planned Parenthood, using money in ways that are not what we call edifying or dignifying to our Lord or to our world.
I love also the positive screen to say we want to be a part of the solution, and like how would you see that, like to actually go after companies that do have a positive social impact, maybe investing in certain regions that are neglected in other ways, investing in industries that are neglected otherwise. Do you think, how would you go about that?
To your point, using your negative screen example, we'll start off with all the don'ts and figure out now what we can invest in, and then turn around and use a second layer of filters to say, okay, out of these approved companies, so to speak, which are now going to further the kingdom of God, and how and why. And let's go to another level there, just to back up, if that's the client's desire. And let's go to another level there and now maybe overweight our allocations to particular companies, right? We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket for a client, but we'll overweight to those. We're now in an approved list of funds that we can, or managers that we want to utilize. And within those managers, which are really going to not just do all the things that they're not supposed to, but which are the ones going to do the things that you really want them to do. And then let's put overweights to them. So give them a greater percentage of the funds to actually manage and utilize. JP,
in my years of interviewing people for different, for television, radio, and different things I've done in the past, you are what I have come to call a quote machine. which means that for every one question that we give you, you give us so much value, you almost anticipate all of our questions. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you very much for sharing your approach to life, your approach to business, your approach to sanctification of work. You definitely have given me a lot to chew on. But I thank you. Thank you for being with us today. Also, I'm sure our viewers will find much value in everything that you have shared. And I thank everybody that's watching this interview. We invite you to like, comment, or share this video to help us attain its maximum exposure.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you
very much, Chippy. It's wonderful to have you on here, and thank you all for watching. It's just our privilege to have your attention for a few minutes or for a half an hour on a busy day. And we hope to see you next time.